With the film celebrating its 20th anniversary this year, we are going to take a look at Revenge of the Sith and how this epic finale of the prequel trilogy was a major cornerstone in pop culture that is still felt today, along with all of the hype that was the build-up around the release of the film from merchandise, tie-ins, and much more. In 2005, the hype for Episode 3 was inescapable.
Hello there.
At the time, this was meant to be the final chapter of a saga that started almost 30 years earlier. George Lucas even said so in my Star Wars fan club letter from 2005. While The Phantom Menace was the starting of the marketing blitz, Revenge of the Sith was its major culmination. Lucas wanted this final installment to rhyme with the original trilogy's epic feel.
Again, it's like poetry, so if they rhyme.
So let's take a trip back to a simpler time, a time when Episode 3 ruled the world. Now, back in 1997, in the lead up to the prequel trilogy itself, Lucasfilm would make multiple licensing deals for promotion. Hasbro would purchase the toy rights for $650 million, meanwhile Pepsi would pay $2 billion to sponsor the entire trilogy starting with Phantom Menace. As we covered in our Phantom Menace look-back video last year, after the release of that film, the amount of licensors for the next two films were reduced by 30% and the overall products by 50%. By 2003, the promotion for Revenge of the Sith was starting to trickle in as they were actually making the movie. The original animated Clone Wars shorts introduced General Grievous, who would become one of the main villains of Episode 3. I know for my 13-year-old self, watching Grievous take out all of those Jedi in the original Clone Wars definitely got me hyped for the next movie, even though he wouldn't do anything close to that in the actual film. As we rolled into 2005, the merchandise started hitting the shelves. I vividly remember the M&M's tie-in for Revenge of the Sith. From the commercials to the merchandise in every store, the dark chocolate M&Ms were the dark side, and the milk chocolate were the light side. Who can also forget the Burger King tie-in? You can get a Darth Vader Whopper, or those Chicky Nuggies, and the toys, and even the collectible watches. We were still 6 years away from Disney purchasing Lucasfilm for $4 billion in 2012, so the tie-in world was a complete Wild West. We had 7-Eleven Slurpee cups where you could drink out of the skull of Darth Vader, Episode 3 Pop-Tarts, Virgin Atlantic sick bags on their planes, but we definitely cannot forget the toys. This was the age of the Toys R Us Midnight Madness, and 14-year-old me was right in the middle of it. I still remember waiting all night in the parking lot with my dad for the doors to finally open, and when they did, it was total chaos. I spent the rest of that lead up into the film collecting every figure from the Revenge of the Sith line. Even though I did collect every figure, I was still 14 and I took them out of the box. I remember going to Target to get the exclusive Anakin and Obi-Wan with lava reflection paint. I put them in our cart, and someone came and just took them out of the cart when we weren't looking. This was an early introduction to the cutthroat mentality of figure collecting. The action figure line was massive. How massive, you asked? The basic figure assortment had 73 different characters. If you had a favorite character, no matter how minor, they were probably hanging on a peg at Toys R Us or Target in 2005. Hasbro delivered deluxe figures, vehicles, playsets. Do you remember the scene when Anakin and Obi-Wan duel on the hovering platforms over lava? Yeah, they turned that into a playset called the Mustafar Final Duel, complete with lava river and throwing volcano rocks. Do you remember Darth Tater? Yes, even Mr. Potato Head got in on the game. Revenge of the Sith also extended its story into the digital realm with hit tie-in video games. Released on the PS2, Xbox, and others, the Episode 3 game let fans play through the movie's plot a full 2 weeks before the movie was released. You could play as Obi-Wan or Anakin, and there was even an alternate ending where you would win as Anakin and kill both Obi-Wan and Emperor Palpatine. It is crazy to think that in our current world where everyone is just constantly trying to avoid spoilers, that we had a full playthrough of the movie 2 weeks before it was released. The very first LEGO Star Wars game was released this year as well, and also gave you a full walkthrough of the movie a few weeks before it was released. Speaking of LEGO Star Wars, how about the horrifying images of Revenge of the Brick? a 3D animated special that aired on Cartoon Network in promotion for the new film way before LEGO thankfully decided on a more consistent art style. There were even flash games like the Scene Bot by Hasbro, where you could take some of the Hasbro action figures and create animated scenes. We also had the Jedi vs. Jedi Blades of Light game to recreate the final battle between Anakin and Obi-Wan. My stop-motion loving heart as a kid was obsessed with both of these games at the time. I even recreated scenes from Revenge of the Sith with my own action figures during this time. Revenge of the Sith would hit theaters on May 19th, 2005. After the mixed reception of Episode 1 and 2, fans and critics alike were anxious for Episode 3 to stick the landing. And for the most part, it did. Critics gave Revenge of the Sith mostly positive reviews. Right now on Rotten Tomatoes, it actually boasts a 79% tomato score. Reviewers praised the darker tone and emotional heft. Finally seeing Anakin's tragic downfall and the rise of Vader gave the prequels a sense of purpose and gravity, many calling it still to this day the best of the prequel trilogy. One notable milestone is that Revenge of the Sith is actually the first ever Star Wars film to get a PG-13 rating. Midnight showings brought in around $17 million, more than double the previous record. Overall, the film grossed over $50 million on its opening day and $850 million worldwide in total. Adjusted for inflation, that is $1.3 billion today.
I take it you're here to see the new Ashton Kutcher movie?
Not quite.
The cultural moment was huge. Practically every show or news outlet was talking about Star Wars. Original trilogy fans would overall be much more critical to the film and the prequel trilogy as a whole. However, as the last 20 years have passed, the children of 2005 have come to bring a re-evaluation to the movie. If cultural legacy were measured in memes and quotable lines, Revenge of the Sith might be the most powerful Star Wars film of all time. By the late 2010s, prequel memes were so popular that they invaded every corner of social media. Reddit, Twitter, TikTok, you name it.
Wait, are you robbing me? I'll give it to your son someday if Padme isn't, dead. I mean, she looked pretty dead to me from up here on the high ground.
The subreddit prequel memes became one of Reddit's most active communities. Nowadays, many younger fans who grew up with the prequels unapologetically love Revenge of the Sith, not just ironically, but genuinely. In recent years, big media outlets and critics have revisited the film on anniversaries and argued that it deserves much more credit.
Nothing in the last 30 years in any of the arts has been produced as emotionally compelling and significant as the finale of Revenge of the Sith.
People who were kids in 2005 now revel in the nostalgia and defend its honor passionately. Even some older fans have softened, especially after watching the Disney sequel movies. When the Clone Wars came back for its final season in 2020, the connections to Revenge of the Sith brought even more appreciation to the film. Perhaps the greatest pop culture legacy of Episode 3 is that it proved how a movie can live on vividly in the public's mind, not just through serious admiration, but through humor and shared references. Fans turned a once divisive trilogy capper into a cornerstone of online geek culture. The film was re-released on April 25th, 2025 for its 20th anniversary and made over $25 million during that opening weekend, the highest grossing re-release of a film ever. For me personally, the film came out at a very important time in my continued growth in the love of filmmaking and my passion to pursue it in any shape or form. I even started my own film company that same summer, partly due to Star Wars being a major part of my childhood. I remember logging into the Hyperspace Fan Club website in those early days of the internet to watch exclusive videos on the making of Episode 3 in those very low-res QuickTime files, but at the time, it was the most exciting thing I had ever seen. Episode 3 was a really important film to those Star Wars fans around my age and those kids who grew up with it after it was released. If anyone ever doubts the power of a film, just quote this line with a grin.
The
This is where the fun begins.
Because Revenge of the Sith, the fun never really ended. Thank you so much for joining us on this look back at 20 years of Revenge of the Sith. It is crazy to think it has been that long and has been a part of our lives this long. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, subscribe to our channel, and click that bell button to be notified when we post brand new videos. Thank you so much for watching, and may the Force be with you always.